The Acolyte is the newest Star Wars series, and Season 1 just had its season finale just a little over a week ago. The show was created by Leslie Headland and tells a story 100 years prior to the events of Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, where a Jedi Master is assassinated. So the Jedi Council decide to investigate who killed the Jedi Master. A Jedi Master named Soul is trying to prove the innocence of who the fingers are being pointed at, that being his old apprentice, Osha, who had left the Jedi Order some years prior. But some mysteries about Osha's past are coming into the light, and it could unravel some shady deeds done by the Jedi. Before I get further into this video, I've been trying to record my thoughts on this for such a long time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make two videos. This first video being my general thoughts on the show, the filmmaking, the storytelling, acting, all that fun jazz, with some slight complaints and praises here and there. The next video will be more so diving into all the details involving plot points and most of my issues with how the story progressed. So, this will just be a more generalized review of the season of The Acolyte. Let's get started. First and foremost, did I like this show? No, not on the slightest. I think it is poorly written and extremely boring. But there are a few positives I had with this. Number one, the fight scenes and the choreography. I think they're done really well. Whether it's lightsaber combat or hand-to-hand combat, I think the choreography is really smooth, fast, and fluid. The action scene that got the most praise came from episode 5, where it is the biggest action scene of the entire show, and it is very reminiscent of the prequel era of lightsaber combat. It is fast, it is fluid, it's violent, and it's really fun. All that action with the lightsaber duel in episode 5, it's really well done. It's really cool. The fight scenes are cool, undoubtedly, but it sucks that there's not that many fight scenes in this show. There's one fight scene in episode 1 in the very beginning. There's a fight scene in episode 5, which is just the whole episode. There's a brief fight scene in episode 7, which is a flashback episode from the Jedi's point of view from a flashback episode in episode 3. And there's a fight scene at the end of the show in episode 8. So, in this 8-episode series, only 4 fight scenes are present in 4 different episodes. The rest of the 4 episodes are just super boring, walking and talking, and not a lot of interesting things happening because I think the show is poorly written. Back to the positives, Lee Jung-jae. He is a South Korean actor who portrays Jedi Master Soul. I wasn't sure what this actor has done because I haven't seen that many South Korean films, but he did play the main character in Squid Games, which I heard is really good. I haven't seen it yet. He learned English to play this character because he loves Star Wars so much. That takes a lot of dedication, and he does a lot of the heavy lifting for the first half of this show. Jedi Master Soul is probably the best character in the show. That is until the second flashback episode in episode 7. Then his character takes a weird turn, and it's kind of strange. But that character did most of the heavy lifting for the show. He was the most intriguing character. I liked him the best. He's obviously the best actor out of anyone in this show. And that's funny because he learned English. I think he outacted everyone else in the show whose English is their first language. And I think that's just an issue with the director of each episode trying to tell the actors what they're trying to get out of it. And just like the prequel era of Star Wars, the fight scenes are cool and the acting is kind of stilted. Even when characters are supposed to be having these big moments with each other, I just don't care because I'm not invested in the story and I'm not invested in any of the personal characters' traits or issues that they're having with each other. And it's all because everything is just presented so poorly. I realized that I went off a little track on me talking about the positives, but that's just kind of it. I like the fight scenes and Lee Jung-jae. That's really it. The rest of the show is super boring and very, very bland. When I say bland, it's not just in terms of acting or how the film looks in terms of CGI or whatever. It's the filmmaking. It's the shot composition. There's nothing done to make this show look interesting. There's no interesting camera movements. There's no interesting framing and setups when these characters just walk and talk or sit down and talk or just stand and talk. And it's just that and shot reverse shot of all these characters talking. It's really boring, it's really bland to look at, and it's kind of underwhelming when you hear about the budget for this show. Apparently, it is $180 million. I expected there to be at least some interesting shots, some nice depth of field moments, some nice wide shots. Nothing, just bland looking scenes. The sets don't even look all that great. In the world of Star Wars, where we have amazing sets, we have amazing costume design and creatures and whatnot, there are a few cool creatures in this show, but the sets are kind of boring. There's not a whole lot of detail in any of these sets. It's strange, especially for a Star Wars project. This show was so damn boring, uneventful, and bad that I went to go watch Andor, and there's so much more in terms of composition, in terms of storytelling, character motivations, and just the look of it all. There's so much more to appreciate in Andor than this show. And I'm sure more people ended up watching The Acolyte because they wanted to hate watch it, because they wanted to hate on it. I wanted to see if something good was going to show up. I wanted to see if something interesting would show up. I wanted to see if the interesting setup of someone murdering a Jedi Master would, elevate into something cool. And I thought the reasoning behind it would be cool. It's not. Everything about the show is just kind of lame. I think one of the biggest crimes of this show, especially since it is the first season, is that it's a lot of setup for a season 2 that I don't want now. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't want it, but they're going to make it most likely, and everyone's going to watch it again. But what sucks about this is that I believe this entire first season could totally be condensed into a half of one season. I'm sure these 8 episodes could be condensed into 4 episodes because of the cliffhanger at the end, because of what we're shown, because of these 2 cameos that we see at the end of the show. It feels like we should be getting more because the show takes so damn long to get to certain points in this show that by the time it gets to those points, we're supposed to care. We're supposed to understand certain issues characters have with each other. We're supposed to understand certain plot points, why this happened. I just didn't give a shit at the end of the day because the show's so damn boring. I didn't get invested in the beginning. I didn't get invested 2 episodes later, and I surely wasn't invested at the end of the show. So when big reveals happen and they're supposed to be big moments, I just didn't care. Not just because it came too late, not just because I didn't like what happened, also because the reason things happen in this show are for the dumbest reasons imaginable, because of bad writing. Because things aren't communicated properly between one thing and the next. Because a lot of these characters are just dumb. They do dumb things. And it's not like, oh, they made a mistake. No, they're just dumb because they're written poorly. I'm not going to get into specifics because I want to save that for another video, because I will go on and on about all the dumb things that I thought were really, really dumb in this show. But I will just say a lot of things didn't make sense on a logical standpoint. Everything is shown to us and we're supposed to be misled. And then once the reveals happen, I just don't care. I didn't care because I didn't give a shit initially. Certain things were kind of obvious, so I knew what was going to happen. I knew who the big bad guy was going to be because it was kind of obvious the episode beforehand. At least the villain was kind of interesting. He had a few things going for him, but too late. It was too late for me to care at points. One of the weirdest things about this show is at the end of, I think, episode 7, in the credits, they play this R&B song that they made for the show. And it's so weird because it's not Star Wars. And I get it. It's a show. It's a new thing. It wants to be different. I want different in Star Wars. I just don't want bad in Star Wars. And it is the biggest sin anything in terms of entertainment can be: boring. This show was undoubtedly boring. I stared at my phone for a few moments throughout the show because I was bored. I didn't give a shit about what was going on. I think this is a bad show. I'm giving The Acolyte a D. So those are my thoughts on The Acolyte Season 1. I want to make a bigger video later on down the line where I talk about a lot of my issues I had with the show, a lot of the dumb things that just happen. That might take a while because I do want to work on other things. I do want to see other shows and movies and yada yada. So anyways, what did you think of The Acolyte if you saw it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Tell me what you thought about it in the comments below, and I'll be back with more enjoyable content like this. So, yeah, bye.